The story begins in a courtroom where we are shown a man named Andy Dufresne who works as a banker at a major bank in America. The judge sentences him to life imprisonment for the murder of his wife and her lover. Andy insists he did not commit this murder but has no proof to prove his innocence. Because of this, the court judge sends Andy to the world's most secure prison called Shawshank Redemption, where he will spend the rest of his life. Andy arrives at Shawshank prison along with several other new inmates, and the existing prisoners immediately start making bets among themselves about which new prisoner will cry on their first night. They wager boxes of cigarettes as they stand outside choosing their picks. A prisoner named Red bets on Andy because he thinks Andy looks innocent and comes from a wealthy family that has never experienced real suffering. Red believes Andy will break down first. That night, all the prisoners are locked in their cells, and the veteran inmates begin shouting at the newcomers, trying to scare them into crying. One of the new prisoners does start crying and begging to go home. Guards arrive and order him to be quiet, but when he continues crying, they drag him from his cell and beat him unconscious. Red loses his bet because despite the terrifying situation, Andy never makes a single sound, showing he is much stronger than Red initially thought. The next morning, Andy quietly eats breakfast alone when he meets Brooks, who is the oldest prisoner in Shawshank, having been incarcerated for 50 years. Andy intelligently asks Brooks about all the rules and systems of the prison. Brooks explains everything and tells Andy that if he wants to get anything from outside the prison, he should talk to a man named Red. Andy immediately approaches Red and asks if it's true he can obtain items from the outside world. Red confirms he can get almost anything except items that could be used for escape or murder. Andy requests a small rock hammer, which makes Red suspicious, and he asks why Andy needs such a tool. Andy explains he's not planning to hurt anyone and has no enemies here. Red warns Andy that while he may not have enemies now, there are 3 men who have their eyes on him, and Andy should stay away from them. Red agrees to order the hammer, and when it arrives, Red laughs because the hammer is so tiny he jokes it would take 600 years to dig through the prison walls with it. But what Red doesn't know is that Andy has already started planning something impossible. Days pass, and one afternoon, while Andy is working in the prison laundry, those 3 men Red warned him about corner Andy and attack him. Andy tries to fight back but cannot overpower 3 people alone, so they beat him severely and assault him. This horrible pattern continues for 2 years, with these men repeatedly catching Andy and abusing him. Then an announcement is made that prisoners are needed for a roof repair job. A team of prisoners, including Red and Andy, volunteer for the outdoor work, and they begin repairing the roof under the supervision of Captain Hadley, who is known as the strictest guard in Shawshank. Hadley never hesitates to beat prisoners for even small mistakes. While the prisoners work, Hadley complains to the other guards that his brother recently died, leaving him $30,000, but when he inherits this money, the government will take most of it as taxes. Andy overhears this conversation, and being an experienced banker, he knows exactly how to help Hadley avoid the taxes. Andy approaches Hadley without fear and asks if he trusts his wife. Hadley gets angry at this question and grabs Andy, threatening to throw him off the roof. But Andy quickly explains that if Hadley trusts his wife completely, he can transfer the inheritance to her as a gift, because government law allows a person to gift up to $60,000 to their spouse tax-free. Andy offers to handle all the paperwork for free instead of Hadley hiring an expensive lawyer. Hadley asks what Andy wants in return, and Andy simply requests that Hadley buy beer for all the workers. The next day, all the prisoners sit on the roof enjoying cold beers, which seems impossible in prison, but Andy made it happen. Andy doesn't drink the beer himself, but sits contentedly watching his fellow prisoners enjoy this small moment of freedom, and this act of kindness earns Andy protection that will prove crucial later. Time passes, and the friendship between Andy and Red grows deeper. One evening, all prisoners watch a film starring Rita Hayworth, and afterward Andy asks Red to get him a large poster of the actress. Red can obtain items from outside, so he agrees. When Andy leaves the screening, those same 3 men who have been tormenting him try to force him to go with them, but this time Andy refuses and fights back. The men beat Andy so badly he must spend a month in the prison hospital, and the ringleader is thrown in solitary confinement for a week. When this man returns to his cell, Captain Hadley is waiting because someone informed Hadley that this prisoner put Andy in the hospital for a month. Hadley beats the man so severely he becomes permanently paralyzed. When Andy returns from the hospital a month later, he finds a large Rita Hayworth poster in his cell as a welcome gift from Red. One day, the prison warden visits Andy's cell with guards to conduct a search. After checking everything, the warden notices the poster on Andy's wall and comments that posters are not normally allowed, but Andy can keep this one. The search was actually an excuse because Hadley had told the warden how Andy saved him $30,000 in taxes. The warden wanted to meet Andy and handed him a Bible saying that salvation lies within before leaving, but neither of them realizes the true meaning these words will have years later. The next day, the warden summons Andy to his office and says an intelligent man like Andy should not waste his life doing manual labor in prison. The warden makes Andy the assistant librarian, working with old Brooks, who has managed the library for decades. Hadley brings other guards to Andy for help with their tax returns and financial paperwork. Andy completes everything quickly, and word spreads throughout the prison about his skills. As years pass, Andy's responsibilities grow, and he needs an assistant, so he chooses his best friend Red for this position. One day in the library, Brooks suddenly holds a knife to another prisoner's throat, threatening to kill him. The government has granted Brooks parole after 50 years, but he doesn't want to leave because prison is the only world he knows. He thinks if he commits a crime, his sentence will be extended and he can stay in Shawshank forever. Andy talks Brooks down and convinces him to release the hostage. Brooks is forced to leave prison, and when he enters the outside world, he finds everything completely alien. In 50 years, the world has changed dramatically, with cars everywhere and everything moving much faster than he remembers. Brooks gets a job at a supermarket but cannot adjust to freedom. He constantly thinks about returning to prison and considers committing a crime just to go back. Unable to cope with the overwhelming changes, Brooks takes his own life but first writes a heartbreaking letter to his friends in prison. Back in Shawshank, the warden starts a new program where prisoners are sent to work on outside construction projects, supposedly to teach them work skills. The prisoners agree because they want to breathe fresh air and see the outside world. But the warden has ulterior motives, as he secures many construction contracts by offering prisoner labor at half the cost of regular workers. This makes the warden enormous amounts of untraceable money. Andy, who is still the prison banker, launders all the warden's illegal earnings by creating fake identities and bank accounts in names of people who don't exist. If police ever investigate, they will search for someone who was never born. A new young prisoner named Tommy arrives at Shawshank, having been in and out of jails his whole life due to repeated theft convictions. Tommy has a friendly personality and quickly makes friends, including Andy, who advises him that if he keeps getting caught stealing, maybe he should consider a different profession. Tommy asks Red about Andy's background, and Red explains Andy was a successful banker convicted of murdering his wife and her lover. Hearing this triggers a memory in Tommy, and he urgently calls Andy and Red together. Tommy reveals that 4 years ago in another prison, he met an inmate who bragged about breaking into a house to rob it, but when the homeowner woke up, he panicked and killed both the homeowner and a woman. Later, this criminal learned from news reports that the woman was married to a wealthy banker, and police had arrested that banker for the double murder. Andy realizes this proves his complete innocence, but what happens next will test everything he has been working toward for nearly 2 decades. Andy immediately goes to the warden and shares Tommy's testimony, but the warden deliberately refuses to believe him. Andy has become invaluable to the warden because he launders all the illegal money and knows every secret. If Andy goes free, the warden loses both his money manager and risks exposure. The warden dismisses Tommy's story as just another prisoner's lie, and when Andy loses his temper and yells at him, the warden orders guards to lock Andy in solitary confinement for 1 month. The warden then privately meets with Tommy, asking if his story is really true, and Tommy confirms everything. The warden asks if Tommy would testify in court, and Tommy agrees immediately. Hearing this, the warden signals to a guard on the tower, who shoots Tommy dead. The warden tells Andy that Tommy was killed while trying to escape, but Andy knows the truth. Andy refuses to launder any more money for the warden, who threatens to make Andy's life in prison absolute hell, and sends him back to solitary for another month. After 2 months in the darkness, Andy emerges and Red comes to check on him. Andy asks Red if he will ever get parole, and Red says maybe when he's very old and his mind stops working. Andy tells Red he plans to go to a beautiful seaside town in Mexico, where he will open a small hotel and repair boats. He will need a handyman to help him, and Andy clearly means Red should join him there. Red responds that hope is a dangerous thing that can drive a man insane, and Andy needs to accept reality because Mexico is very far away. Before Red leaves, Andy makes him promise that if Red ever gets out, he will go to a specific hayfield under a large oak tree where Andy once proposed to his wife. Under a black volcanic rock in the stone wall, Red will find a box containing something important, but Andy doesn't tell Red that this box is connected to a plan 20 years in the making. That night, Andy completes one final job for the warden, carefully organizing all the financial documents and placing them in the warden's safe. The warden gives Andy his dress clothes and shoes, telling him to polish them perfectly. Andy returns to his cell, and Red worries all night that Andy might harm himself. But when morning comes and cell doors open, Andy does not emerge. This has never happened in 20 years. A guard angrily goes to Andy's cell and is shocked to find it completely empty. The warden is notified, and when he examines the cell, he picks up a rock to throw in frustration. The rock goes through the Rita Hayworth poster, revealing a tunnel in the wall. Andy has escaped. Guards trace the tunnel and find Andy's prison clothes along with the tiny rock hammer Red got him 2 decades earlier. For 20 years, Andy had been slowly digging through the concrete wall, hiding the entrance behind the poster. He disposed of debris by keeping it in his pockets and scattering it in the exercise yard. The last time Andy worked for the warden, he switched the financial documents with the Bible, placing them cleverly in the safe. Andy had hollowed out the Bible's pages to hide his rock hammer, and the warden had even held this Bible once years ago, never knowing what was inside. On his final night, Andy put on the warden's polished dress clothes over his prison uniform. When the lights went out, he crawled through his tunnel and broke into a sewage pipe. He crawled through 2 kilometers of filth before emerging free. The next morning, Andy visits several banks banks where the wardens laundered money is held in fake accounts that Andy created. Since Andy forged all the signatures, he easily withdraws $370,000. Andy also sends all evidence of the warden's crimes to newspapers. When the warden opens his safe expecting to find his documents, he instead finds the Bible with Andy's note inside reading that the warden was right about salvation being within. When the warden turns the pages, he sees the hammer-shaped cutout where Andy hid his tool for 2 decades. Realizing everything, the warden shoots himself before police can arrest him. Sometime later, Red is finally granted parole after 40 years and gets a job, but struggles with freedom just like Brooks did. Red remembers his promise to Andy and travels to the hayfield, finding the large oak tree and the stone wall. Under a black rock, he discovers a box containing money and a letter from Andy. The letter says Andy is waiting in Mexico at the coastal town he described, and that hope is actually a good thing. Red follows the instructions and travels to Mexico, where he finds Andy on a beach working on a boat. The 2 friends embrace, knowing they are finally free and can live out their dreams together. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel and like the video.